Not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
The WNBA All Star Showdown turned into an unforgettable battle when Caitlyn Clark faced off against veteran star Kelsey Plum, and what unfolded had fans roaring. With lights blazing and the crowd on edge, Caitlyn didn't just hold her own. She completely shut Plum down with a performance that silenced doubters and lit up the scoreboard. But it wasn't just her game that stole the spotlight. It was what she said after the buzzer that truly stunned everyone. So, what did Caitlyn say, and why is the entire league still buzzing about it? Kelsey Plum's subtle jab at Caitlyn Clark. It was supposed to be a moment of solidarity. July 20th, 2024, the WNBA All Star game in Phoenix, Arizona. A night when the league's biggest stars gathered under one roof to celebrate their talent, their progress, and their power. But instead of showcasing unity, one quiet moment sparked a wave of controversy, and Caitlyn Clark was right at the center of it. The players took to the court not just in jerseys, but with a message stamped boldly across their chests. "Pay us what you owe us." It was loud, proud, and necessary, a powerful protest demanding fair pay and deeper respect. On the surface, it felt like a turning point for women's basketball. But that message took a twist, and it wasn't from the media or the fans. It came from within the league itself. During a post-game press conference, Plum leaned into the mic and dropped a comment that felt like a crack in the foundation. She didn't say Caitlyn Clark's name, but she didn't need to. Her words hit hard, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. That wasn't just a side note, that was a shot, carefully aimed and emotionally loaded. Plum was referring to the players-only meeting held earlier that day, where stars gathered to plan the protest and stand behind the "pay us what you owe us" message. According to Plum, no one from Team Clark, a label that's grown around Caitlyn due to her unprecedented popularity, showed up. And that comment? It landed like a slap across the face of the most talked-about rookie in WNBA history. To many, it felt like more than just a statement. It was a move to paint Caitlyn as disconnected, as selfish, as someone who benefits from the spotlight but doesn't stand in the trenches with the rest of the league. The internet took notice, fans picked sides, some defended Caitlyn, others praised Plum for calling it out. But one thing was clear, this wasn't just about a t-shirt anymore. It became personal, and just like that, the All-Star game turned from a celebration into a showdown, one that didn't happen on the court, but in the locker rooms, the headlines, and every corner of the internet. But what if the real All-Star battle exploded behind the scenes, away from the court center? Stay tuned to find out how Caitlyn Clark turned shade into a spotlight. Let's set the record straight. Caitlyn Clark wasn't at the All-Star meeting because she wasn't even part of the game. She'd already been ruled out back home in West Des Moines, Iowa, focusing on recovery and self-care. No pre-game tunnels, no locker room speeches, no jersey. And yet, somehow, she still dominated the headlines. Clark didn't wear the "pay us what you owe us" shirt, not because she doesn't care, but because she didn't need to prove her loyalty to a cause she's already helping lead. Caitlyn is the leverage. The spike in ticket sales, the TV ratings surge, the sold-out arenas, that's the Caitlyn effect. She doesn't just support the movement, she's fueling it. But when her name got dragged by Kelsey Plum in that press conference, without being technically named, Team Clark had no clue the vibe was about to get icy. You could feel the tension instantly. Cameras caught Sabrina Ionescu's face the moment Plum made her little not-to-tattletale jab. She didn't smile. She didn't clap. She looked tight, uncomfortable. Like even she knew the comment crossed a line. And WNBA veteran Stacey King didn't mince words either. He tweeted, "Why are they throwing shade at Caitlyn? She's the reason y'all are getting paid more." Facts, no filters. Because let's be honest, this whole united front was starting to feel one-sided. Some players were all in for solidarity. Others were more focused on side eyes and cheap shots. And in the middle of it all, the rookie with the biggest spotlight and the smallest ego. But here's the part that truly flipped the script. While the league was still buzzing with drama, Caitlyn Clark stepped into a new lane, literally. Just days after Plum's comments sparked backlash, Caitlyn popped up in a global Nike campaign, front and center, camera ready, smiling, thriving, silent. And then came the moment. Kelsey Plum, who's signed to Under Armour, posted a photo from the very same Nike event. And guess who showed up in the comments section? Caitlyn. With one perfectly sharpened line, "Thanks for the Nike ad." Boom. No anger, no sass. Just an elegant, bulletproof clapback in 6 words. That post exploded. Thousands of likes, hundreds of retweets. Fans caught the shade instantly and loved it. No need for interviews or call-outs. Caitlyn flipped the whole vibe with one icy move. She didn't need to shout. She just let the world do the talking. Some moments roar without a sound. So how did Caitlyn's silence shake the league to its core? You won't want to miss this part. Caitlyn Clark's weekend of quiet power. By the end of All Star Weekend, Phoenix, July 20th, 2024, one thing was crystal clear. Caitlyn Clark was everywhere, without ever touching the hardwood. No jersey, no minutes, no highlight dunks or buzzer beaters. But somehow she was the headline, the moment, the main character, front and center in every viral clip. The cameras chased her, the sponsors lined up, the buzz, all hers. Meanwhile, Kelsey Plum was catching heat, fast. What started as a pointed jab during a press conference spiraled into a full-on backlash. WNBA fans weren't having it. Media personalities called her out. Even retired NBA legends jumped in, calling her comments petty and unnecessary. The verdict? She picked the wrong target. And here's what made it even more epic. Caitlyn Clark didn't say a word, didn't tweet, didn't drop a statement, didn't clap back in an interview. She didn't need to. The entire sports world spoke for her. Analysts were quick to note the shift. Caitlyn Clark is the face of the league, one said. When she enters a room, the owners see dollar signs. And they're not wrong. She's the one turning cameras. She's the one fans fly across states to watch. She's the one who drove the WNBA's expansion fee from $50 million to a jaw-dropping $250 million. That's not hype. That's value. Measurable, bankable, undeniable value. And even as the chatter swirled, Caitlyn did what true stars do. She hooped. Back on the court in her next game, under pressure, being doubled, shoved, and targeted, she stayed calm and balled out like a veteran. No theatrics, no distractions, just buckets and leadership. And while the world picked apart Plum's dig, Caitlyn played the long game. She kept it classy, mature, powerful. Then came the moment that sent the internet into orbit. A 6-word Instagram reply that hit like a grenade. "Thanks for the Nike ad." No hashtags, no anger, just pure, icy confidence. That comment turned a brand appearance into a masterclass in shade. Suddenly, the conversation flipped. Analysts started talking less about Caitlyn skipping a protest and more about the jealousy bubbling under the surface of the league. One ESPN voice didn't hold back. They're biting the hand that's feeding them. Fans knew it. Players saw it. And by the end of the weekend, what looked like a subtle attempt to isolate Caitlyn Clark had turned into a massive spotlight shining directly on her greatness and exposing everyone who tried to dim it. When silence spoke louder than applause. The most explosive moment of All-Star Weekend didn't come from a dunk, a buzzer beater, or even a headline-grabbing quote. It came from silence, from body language, from an awkward pause, from one of the most uncomfortable press conference clips of the year. It happened right there in Phoenix, July 20th, 2024. Kelsey Plum was mid-sentence, taking her now infamous dig at Caitlyn Clark. You could hear the smirk in her voice. But seated right beside her? Sabrina Ionescu, another star, another face of the league, and her reaction said everything. Sabrina didn't nod, didn't smile, didn't lean in. Her posture stiffened, her face completely frozen. She didn't co-sign the moment. She didn't even blink. It was the clearest, "I'm not part of this" body language we've seen in a while. That wasn't just discomfort. It was a red flag, and the internet caught it instantly. Because this wasn't a post-game slip-up. This was the WNBA All Star weekend, a moment meant to scream unity, sisterhood, and the undeniable rise of women's sports. A stage where everyone was supposed to shine together. But instead of lighting up the league, Kelsey Plum struck a match and burned the vibe down. The backlash, swift and ruthless. NBA legend and champion Stacey King didn't tiptoe around it. He went straight for the truth, calling Plum's actions petty and counterproductive. "Why throw shade at the one person making this possible?" he asked. And he wasn't alone. Charles Barkley, always one to say what others are thinking, chimed in. Sports commentators lit up Twitter. Fans rallied. Even former WNBA players spoke up. The message was unanimous. This isn't it. Because here's the irony. Players can't demand higher salaries and global attention while dragging down the exact person delivering it. You can't wear a shirt saying, "Pay us what you owe us," and then try to alienate the league's biggest financial engine. And the NBA noticed. Multiple players publicly backed Caitlyn. Some said it outright, "Stop acting like this toward the one raising your paycheck." The uncomfortable truth started setting in. Kelsey's attempt to call out Caitlyn didn't come off like activism. It came off like envy. And suddenly, fans who were ready to support the pay protest were now asking a different question. Why are you throwing hate at the person helping you eat? The shift was loud. The energy flipped. And it was clear, this wasn't about shirts anymore. This was about respect, recognition, and the power of knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. And now, the mood changed. Fast. So, could this moment redefine loyalty in the league? Stay with us as the truth hits hard. When the internet had Caitlyn Clark's back. By Sunday night, social media had turned into a courtroom, and the verdict was swift. Post after post ripped through the timeline, dragging Kelsey Plum for what fans were now calling one of the pettiest plays in WNBA history. One tweet racked up nearly 1 million views in hours. Kelsey Plum got more press for dissing Caitlyn Clark than anything she's done all season. That tells you everything you need to know. Brutal. Accurate. The crowd wasn't confused. They saw it for what it was. Jealousy wrapped in a post-game jab. And what made it even worse? Caitlyn Clark didn't flinch. She didn't clap back, didn't shade Kelsey in return, didn't even throw a sarcastic quote into a mic. She stayed above it all. And somehow, that silence, that calm, collected non-response, it said more than any headline ever could. While Kelsey's shade felt desperate, Caitlyn's silence felt powerful, icy but classy, like someone who knew she'd already won, and the fans noticed. That silence, it wasn't weakness, it was dominance. And then came the corporate twist. Nike saw the wave and rode it all the way to the bank. Caitlyn's brand exploded. The comment she left under Kelsey's Instagram post, "Thanks for the Nike ad," was reposted across every sports account from Bleacher Report to ESPNW. It was cheeky, clean, and absolutely killer. The replies, flooded with praise, memes, and fire emojis. Kelsey? She vanished. No clarification, no response, just silence. The kind that screams defeat. Even more awkward. Kelsey Plum, a signed Under Armour athlete, still had to show up at a Nike-sponsored event, an event where Caitlyn Clark was the main attraction. Imagine walking into a room filled with swooshes while the person you tried to undercut is literally glowing on a Nike screen. That's not just uncomfortable, that's humbling. But this wasn't just about two players. It exposed something deeper inside the league. The WNBA, still growing, still evolving, is now facing a new challenge: how to handle a breakout superstar when not everyone is ready for her spotlight. Caitlyn Clark didn't ask for the fame, the deals, the global attention. She earned it. She put in the work, brought in the numbers, packed out arenas from Indiana to Las Vegas, and lit a fire under women's basketball that's been waiting to burn for years. And instead of lifting her up, Kelsey and a few others tried to frame it like she was the problem. But fans weren't fooled. They saw the truth. The real question now? How will the rest of the league adjust when one player's light is simply too bright to shade? Now here's the twist. When one player's light blinds the room, who dims, who adapts, and who gets exposed? Stay glued. The storm Caitlyn Clark didn't start. Now the pressure's not just building, it's bursting. Because when the noise fades and the lights cool down, one truth still roars louder than all the tweets, digs, and eye rolls combined. Caitlyn Clark is the WNBA's future, period. And if you're not moving with that wave, you're standing in front of it and getting run over. It's wild to think Kelsey Plum thought she was making a statement. A little jab, a subtle flex. But what did she end up doing? Igniting a firestorm she couldn't control. What started as a swipe across the bow turned into a full-on self-inflicted collapse. Because here's the thing, Caitlyn didn't need to clap back. She didn't rally a fan army. She didn't beg for validation. Her silence, that was the revenge. And the league? It responded with numbers, not narratives. Let's talk facts. Before Caitlyn Clark hit the scene, WNBA games were often tucked away in late-night slots. Coverage? Barely there. Expansion fees? Sitting at a quiet $50 million. But then she showed up. April 2024 draft, first pick to the Indiana Fever, and everything flipped. Ratings? Skyrocketed. Attendance? Up by nearly 40%. Jersey sales? Exploded. She's outdrawing MLB and NHL games. Think about that. This isn't a coincidence. It's a Clark-quake. And with all that momentum, what do some of the league's veterans do? Instead of embracing the rising tide, they try to contain it, diminish it, pretend like it's not her shaking the foundation. But come on. When your league goes from commercial airlines that charge for water to private jets in less than 6 months, you don't shade the reason. You say thank you. But here's the uncomfortable layer no one wants to say out loud. This isn't just about Kelsey's comment anymore. It's bigger. There's a growing current inside the league, an agenda trying to manage Caitlyn Clark's stardom, keep her in check, mute her glow. Why? Because Caitlyn didn't just raise the bar, she exposed the ceiling. Before her, WNBA players were stuck making 9% of league revenue, while NBA players pulled 50%. Suddenly, the business side has no excuse, because she's brought in more fans, more merch sales, and more money than anyone in years. And for players who've been grinding for a decade without this level of shine, that stings. Some embrace her. They see the big picture. But others, they see competition. They see a rookie getting everything they've been fighting for. And that tension? It's no longer quiet. It's boiling. And Caitlyn? She's still not saying a word. But could silent strength be more dangerous than loud resistance? Stick around, because this storm is just beginning. The storm they didn't see coming. Kelsey Plum's post-game comments, just the matchstick. What followed was an emotional wildfire that exposed something way deeper than simple competitiveness. The looks, the silence, the carefully worded tweets, and especially the moments that weren't caught on mic but sure as hell were felt. Because what's been building up around Caitlyn Clark isn't just a little tension, it's resistance, resentment, and a growing wave of players, pundits, and yes, even parts of the league itself, who don't know how to handle the rise of a star they didn't control. The irony? Caitlyn never asked for the spotlight. She earned it, dropping deep threes in Iowa, breaking records, filling arenas. She didn't politic her way in. She played her way in. And yet now, in cities like Las Vegas and Chicago, she's getting booed, elbowed, and left hanging by players who should be standing beside her. Let's go back to July 20th in Phoenix, the 2024 WNBA All Star game. Plum took the mic and shaded Caitlyn for skipping a pre-game unity meeting. But instead of unity, what fans saw was a clear divide. None of Team Clark had been present. Zero. And the message? Crystal clear. You're either with us or you're out. And that's the core of it, isn't it? Caitlyn Clark has become too big for the old system to ignore and too powerful for it to control. Flagrant fouls against her, no fine, no suspension, no outcry. The league's golden ticket takes hits like a rookie, and silence echoes louder than whistles. But let her miss a meeting? Suddenly she's the problem. It's not just about jealousy, it's about fear. Fear of what it means when someone shifts the balance overnight. Before Caitlyn's debut, WNBA expansion fees were barely a conversation. Now teams are dropping $250 million just for a seat at the table. Before her, merch sales were stagnant. Now they're up 500%. And TV viewership breaking records left and right. So when players take shots at Caitlyn, whether it's in interviews or on the court, they're not just criticizing a player. They're revealing the pressure the whole system is feeling. The fear that maybe, just maybe, the future isn't in their hands anymore. And what makes it all hit even harder? Caitlyn doesn't lash out. She doesn't fire back. She doesn't even flinch. She stays calm, keeps her head down, and continues doing what she does best. Putting in the work. No drama, no distractions, just results. She lets the numbers do the talking, the fans do the cheering, and her legacy does the heavy lifting. Because while others whisper in locker rooms and plot in silence, Caitlyn Clark keeps making history, loudly, proudly, and out in the open. So, what do you think is really fueling the tension behind Caitlyn Clark's sudden rise? Jealousy, fear, or something deeper? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.